Welcome, Stellar Horizons. We're going to look at the page 25 and we're going to attempt to do a little bit of the examples of play, and I hope that this will make it much easier for anyone who's learning to play this game. I had a very long history of this game. Andrew Rader, the designer, is someone I met playing another game called World in Flames, I think in 2004, so going back a long time. But anyway, this game has gone through many iterations of design. The one that I play tested a lot is not the one we've got today, so uh, it's had a lot of changes because the original game was viewed to be a bit too long and a bit too complicated. I am going to do another video on how that game looked, but for now, with this game, we're going to go through the examples of play, and I hope will encourage you to play the game, buy the game if you don't already have it, because there is nothing else like it. There really isn't, and it's a wonderful way of learning more about our own solar system. And for those of us who already have an interest in our solar system and other solar systems, this really is a game based on realistic science. So I'm using Vassal, and someone's gone to a lot of effort to make this as automated as possible, so thanks to them. So let's look at page 25 of the book, and the first exploration example is of North America. So we can zoom in now, make it a bit easier to see what we're doing. And we're going to, I've taken off the other chits, so all we have here are the North American ships for this example. So the first thing we do is we'll look at the sequence of play, and we're ignoring the economic phase because this is the first turn. America is not going to be building any ships at this point, so we're going to go straight into part 3, which is the movement phase. So we've got the arrow here to help us. So this is where we have to drop all ships in the transfer boxes. So essentially what we're doing is we're moving everything. So let's start with that. So from left to right, the other thing that's handy here is we've got a little jump box we can use. So moving left to right, we can see that we have an orbiter. So by its name, that means it doesn't move. It's already moved there, and now it's a stationary robotic explorer. Looking at Earth, we see we've got the telescope again, quite obviously. Therefore, it's stationary. It's not moving. Then we come to Mars, and we see that we do actually have a crewed vehicle, and in the example it shows that this is indeed going to move into the flyby box, and then we're going to come back to it and move it because we want it to actually explore Mars. So we're coming back to that one, but the first thing we do is we'll drop the box, and then moving across we come to the Kuiper belt, and we see here that we've got the Sagan. Now the Sagan, because the Kuiper belt is so far away, and the way that we know that is if we look just underneath the name, we've got the plus 12 in green. This is telling us that it takes 12 turns from Earth to get here. And as you can see, these are marked in 6 turns, all of these planets. So what's happened is it's obviously been moving before, and it's actually 8 away. So there's a little box here, a little counter we use here to let us know that. So we're adding 6 to the number. So we can see we've got 6. We're in the 2 box. So we're in the 8 box, and we're now going to move down 1. So we're in the 7 box essentially. So now we've moved everything, and now we come over to the next stage of what we're going to do. So let's bring up the sequence of play. We're still in the movement phase, so before we get to exploration we need to do a movement. Now, the movement that we need to do is of course moving the Orion to Mars's orbit, and that means we have to use our engines, so we have to do an engine failure roll. Now, what we're able to learn is when we look at the tech tree, that America starts off with some bonuses from the tech tree, and what that also means is that its engine failure rate is fixed. It's fixed at 5%, and because it's a crew vehicle, that it's got -2% to that. So in other words, if we roll 3 or less on a percentile dice, unfortunately the ship will blow up. So let's hope I don't roll 3 or less. But what we're essentially doing is we're moving the Orion from here to here. We could of course gone to these other locations that are indicated by an arrow, but what we're actually doing is we're going straight to the Mars box. So what we do is we can right click on this actually, and we roll for engine failure. Fortunately we rolled a 40%, so we haven't blown up. Great news. So after all movement is complete, we can see, looking at the sequence of play, there's no combat phase because we're peaceful. So what we're going to do is now explore. And again, it's best to do that by going from the sun outwards. So let's see how we get on. So the way that we explore, again, is nice and straightforward. We're adding the number of whatever unit we're using. In this case, we're using an orbiter. So looking at Mercury, we've got nothing there, but we do have something at Venus. And there's a couple of things that we need to be aware of as we do this. As you can see from the outline below, where it tells us details of what's going on in the map. So next to Venus, we can see that there's this symbol. And what does it mean? It says it means it's got a severe atmosphere. So the severe atmosphere means that we have to add 20% to the chance of our robotic explorer being destroyed when we explore, due to the immense pressure of the atmosphere. So the counters make it easy for us because we can see we've got 30% there. So we essentially, if we roll 50% or less, unfortunately we are going to lose our orbiter. Now we need to look at the other features, which is the number here, explore 6. So it's telling us that if we roll a 6 on a d10 or less, we are going to be able to say that we've discovered something, which in this case is a physics counter. So we'll get physics technology. And we add to that number whatever our exploration value of the vehicle or crewed vehicle we're using. We're using a robotic explorer here with a value of 1, so therefore on a 7 or less we will be successful in exploring Venus. So again, nice and easy, we can right click on here and we roll for exploration. And we see that we've rolled a 3, well 3 is less than 7, so we've had success. And the malfunction roll is 75%. So we know that we have succeeded in not being crushed by Venus's atmosphere, so we've had a successful exploration. So now what we do is we can right click again and we're able to draw tech or world card. Well, what we're doing here is we're drawing a tech marker, and it's a physics tech marker. So we draw that and it's a 2. Now the number's important because if it was a 3 or higher, then there's something called depletion would happen, which means this number 6 would go down and a couple of other things would happen. But hopefully we're going to get to that a bit later. So for now, we've had success. We go to our chart for our particular country, and we're going to put this physics number here. So that's to show that we have successfully got some physics, and these technology numbers are going to help us later when we're using the tech chart in learning new technologies to help our future exploration. Now we come to Earth and we've got our telescope. And telescopes act differently to other robotic explorers or crew vehicles because what they're able to do is look at anything that's on the map, excluding Alpha Centauri. And what they do is that you're able to roll to explore them. You never create depletion by using a telescope. But the other special rule is that the value of the planet is halved, rounding up, when you use a telescope. So in the example, you'll notice that what it says is that Sally, who's playing America, she decides that she wants to actually look at Iris. So we'll see if we can find it. And what we're going to do is she is going to use her robotic explorer and look at Iris. And here we see that Iris is a 9. So essentially on a 5 or higher, she will have success. So what we're going to do, the other thing that telescopes are able to do is, of course, they can do deep space astronomy. That's the other thing they can do, which is unique to telescopes. So let's do that. Let's right click and do our exploration, and we see we rolled a 5. So we would need a 7 because we're adding 2 to that number 5. So we've had success. So we're able to draw a physics tech marker because that's what Iris gives us, and we get 1. So a little bit disappointing, but it's something, I suppose. And we'll add that to our list, but unfortunately we rolled a malfunction roll of 5%, which we can see is lower, which we can see is lower than the 30%. So that means unfortunately the level has indeed been destroyed. So what we do is we see that we've got an engine fail, so we draw an engineering marker, and that will automatically go on our player card, and we have to return this back to our card, so it's going to have to be rebuilt. And now if we look at our card, we'll see that we now have an engineering marker over here, and that's because the engineering marker is representing that we have learnt from our mistakes. So something's gone wrong, and we hope that the next time we build a telescope we won't make the same mistake. So it's not all bad news, it's not good news, but it's not all bad news because we do actually get some form of reward, if you like, for being an explorer. So moving on, we now have the exciting part of the exploration, which is, of course, we now have crewed vehicles at Mars. Elon Musk must be proud. So what we're going to do is, with a crewed vehicle, we are going to look at Mars's number, which is a 6. We look at the 5 on our ship. So we know that if we add them together, that's 11. And we always need to roll 10 or less to get the exploration number. So we've automatically succeeded in getting at least 1 biology tech marker. But when we look at what we've got going on here, we see we have a +1. Well, again, if we look at our tech tree, we see that we have improved spacesuits, which means we get a +1 when using crewed vehicles. So how does that work? Is there any benefit? Well, because we've now got 6 + 6, which is 12, if we roll a 1 or a 2, we will actually get an extra marker. So that's the benefit of whenever you go over the minimum 10 number. So we've got a 12, but we also, looking at the ship, we see that we have something extra. We have a marker showing that we have a mobile lab. And that means instead of rolling 1 dice when we explore, we roll 2. And by rolling 2, we pick the number we want. So we've kind of increasing our chances of rolling that magic 1 or 2 to see if we can get 2 markers. So let's see how we do. Well, we can see we rolled a 1 and a 7, so that means that we have indeed got an extra marker. So now what we're able to do is we're able to draw a biology, we're able to draw a tech, and we get a biology number of 2, and then of course we can do it again because we got 2. and we can see that by adding them up, we've got 4, which is more than the 3 minimum we need to deplete. So we've managed to deplete Mars. So we're able to do a couple of things here. We can learn a couple of extra rules. The first one we want to do is not forget to take our winnings. So let's do that. And we're going to add our tech markers. So we've got 4 biology. We decrease this number, so we decrease the value from 6 to 5 because it's been depleted. Now, the first thing that happens when you deplete is, of course, you gain a politics marker. So on our chart, we can see we've got a politics here, so we can increase that. So we gain a politics marker, and we'll discuss later how they're beneficial. And you always receive a politics number when you deplete. The other thing that we found out, of course, is that sadly we did roll 38%. And the problem with that for us is, of course, when we look at our counter, we see that our number is 50%. So on 50% or less, we are recalled. So now we have to, well, we're recalled, which in the game is reserved. So we become reserved because we've got to make our way back to Earth or to a space station that will allow us to be resupplied. So we are reserved, and because we're reserved, you see that we draw a biology number. So again, it's a little bit like the robotic explorer. If there is a failure, there's still something to be learned. So we have now drawn another biology marker. So if we bring this back, we see that we have another biology from actually having to be recalled or be reserved. Now, the option we have is that once depletion has taken place, we are able to draw a world card, and we do that because what we're able to do is see whether something through the depletion of the planet, we're going to find out if there's something extra we find. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the chits, and you see there's a world card here. We take this out, unmask it, and see if it applies to the planet. So the way that we do that is when we look at the world box, we see it gives us information. It says it's icy, it's rocky planet. So here we got the world type rocky with minimal gravity. So this doesn't really apply because we don't have minimal gravity, we have low gravity. So this card is not applicable to this world, so we won't be using it. If it had the right criteria, we'd have the choice of placing it or not. And the advantage of these world cards are, as you can see in this example, it would mean that orbiters or anything flying by would get a bonus in exploration. So we return this to the deck. Now the last thing, which can be very beneficial, is we're going to see that we've got the biology life. In other words, if we roll 12% or less when we search for life, we will find signs of life. So just for the sake of this example, let's roll to see if I can actually be that lucky. And what I do is I just like to make a note of what I'm doing. So I'm searching for life. We roll a D100. 60, no. But in the example, Sally is successful. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through that success so that we can learn together how we actually get benefits from finding signs of life. As you can imagine, finding signs of life would be a dramatic event for the human race. So we go to the tech tree, and we see under biology technologies there is a signs of life, and that has a couple of amazing effects. First of all, our Earth production goes up with 2 for our biology points. But what we'll do is we'll just make sure that everybody knows that we found them first. So we're going to place our flag here to show that America has, and Canada of course, have found signs of life. And there's a couple of bonuses that happen. It tells us we need to get our status card out, and to explain the production value, if we look at Earth production, you can see how normally for the next few decades we would create 3 biology markers every time it's time for the economic phase. But because we've found signs of life and are the first to do so, we actually get a bonus of 2. So we'll actually be getting 5 biology markers every economic phase, which is a huge bonus. The other thing we get is we get an extra politics marker because we found signs of life. That's one of the things that happens when you find signs of life. And the other thing that we do is we get a bonus couple of markers. So we actually get 2 biology markers as a bonus. So what we're able to do is go over to our chits and we pull 2 more biology markers. Oh, and we hit the jackpot. Look, we've got 10 more. Incredible. So that's going to come very useful when it's time for our technology phase. So we've been recalled, but well worth it, isn't it? If you think what we've managed to do. So now what we can do is we can move on to the economic phase to explain that. But hopefully, as you can see from this first turn, we've managed to cover quite a lot of ground. We've done the movement, so we've made everything move down a box, which in our case was just this Sagan, which is in a flyby of the Kuiper belt, and also, of course, we moved our crewed vehicle from the flyby box to Mars, rolled for engine failure, and then we're able to do our exploration. So that's hopefully a good example of play for helping to get you started, not feel too overwhelmed when where do we start. So what we've covered here on the sequence of play is we've done the movement phase and we've done the exploration phase.